I have been staring at this this one image for the better part of an hour today. It is the opening drawing of Chapter 9. I think you know the one I'm talking about. The fat man?
Oh, the gentleman with the kite? Yeah, it is impossible to miss. It's just pure joy captured in graphite.
It really is.
Yeah.
You look at it and you see this heavy, round, substantial man. And I mean properly heavy. But he is sprinting. He's trailing this kite behind him. His coat is flapping like a cape. His hair is just wild.
Right.
He looks weightless, feels so effortless. But then you read the text underneath and you realize you aren't looking at a spontaneous moment of joy. You're looking at a math problem.
That is the Richard Williams special, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
He takes the magic of animation, puts it on the operating table, and he dissects it. He shows you the gears and the pulleys. And this chapter, Chapter 9, which is called Runs and Jumps and Skips, this is where the engineering really ramps up, because making a character walk, that is difficult.
Right, just getting from point A to point B.
Exactly. Getting from point A to point B without falling over is hard enough.
But running
is violence.
Violence.
I mean, it is high-impact engineering. You are manipulating gravity, you're manipulating timing, momentum. Williams is essentially handing us the keys to the kingdom of velocity here.
I like that, the kingdom of velocity. So for this deep dive, our mission is really to look past that beautiful drawing and see the biomechanics underneath. How do animators make you believe a coyote is going 60 miles an hour?
Or how they give actual weight to a jump.
Right, and what the mathematical formula is for something as simple as a skip.
It is basically a physics class.
Which I love. So let's crack open the source material. We're looking at the animator's survival kit. And I want to start exactly where Williams starts. He brings up a distinction that seems incredibly obvious until you actually try to define it. He draws a line in the sand on page 1 of this chapter. What is the actual biomechanical difference between a walk and a run?
It's the question that trips up so many people, because most people assume it's just about speed. You know, if I go fast, I'm running. If I go slow, I'm walking.
I tested this theory out in my hallway before we started recording. I tried to walk as fast as humanly possible without actually breaking into a run.
Oh no, let me guess. You look like one of those Olympic power walkers. With the hips swiveling and the elbows pumping.
I looked like an absolute maniac looking for a bathroom. It was not pretty. But I noticed something really specific. No matter how furiously I moved my legs, and no matter how much sweat I worked up, as long as I kept one foot on the floor, it didn't feel like a run. It just felt like a highly constrained walk.
And there is the secret. That is the exact definition. It has absolutely nothing to do with speed.
Really?
None at all. You can have a slow motion run, and you can have a hyperspeed walk. The difference is entirely about the airborne moment.
The float.
Float. Think about it philosophically for a second. In a walk, you are tethered to the earth. Safety first. As one foot lifts, the other one is already planted. You are never fully letting go of your security. But a run.
A run is
a series of leaps.
You're abandoning safety.
Completely. In a run, there are frames, and sometimes it's just 1 or 2 frames where both feet are off the ground. You are technically flying. You are hurling yourself through space and just trusting that your foot will come down in time to catch you.
So walking is basically controlled falling, where you never really let go, but running is controlled flight.
Exactly. And Williams makes this point very clearly. If one foot is on the ground all the time, we do not have a run, we have a power walk. And that distinction completely changes how you animate the figure.
Because the physics change.
Right. In a walk, you are managing balance, but in a run, you are managing momentum.
Which brings us perfectly to the roadmap for today. We're going to break down the standard run first, the actual mechanics of that flight. Then we're going to look at the cheats.
The fun stuff.
Yeah, the cartoon physics used to create those impossible speeds. Then we'll get into the rhythmic joy of the skip. And finally, we'll talk about the weight of the jump.
And we do have a fantastic case study to look at a little later on. It involves this very specific old lady character that Williams uses to demonstrate all 3 of these things in a single sequence.
I cannot wait to get to the old lady. She is quite a character. But let's start with the basics first. Section 1, the mechanics of the run. Williams talks about the standard run, and he uses this phrase that appears all over animation spec sheets. He calls it the run on 6s. Now, for the non-animators listening, we need to translate that. We are not talking about shoes here.
No. We're talking about time, the heartbeat of cinema. Standard film runs at 24 frames per second. That is our clock. So when an animator says a run is on 6s, they mean one single step takes 6 frames of film.
Okay, let me do the math. 24 divided by 6, that's 4 steps every second.
Thump, 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 thump.
That is actually really fast.
It is. It's a solid, energetic jog. I mean, if you look at your watch right now and tap 4 times in a single second, you realize that is a very sustainable rhythm, but you definitely aren't dallying.
And Williams breaks down those 6 frames into a recipe, because it's not just random flailing movement. There's a strict cycle.
It is a strict cycle. You have the contact, which is where the heel strikes the ground, then the down position. And this one is crucial. The knee has to bend to take the weight of the body. You cannot land on a straight leg or you would literally shatter your hip.
Have absorptions.
Exactly. Then you have the pass position, where the free leg swings past the planted leg. And finally, the up position, the push-off. This is where the actual energy happens.
There's a great visual tip in the notes here about the silhouette. Williams says you can almost take a walk cycle and turn it into a run just by changing one thing in the drawing.
This is such a great shortcut for visualization. If you look at the silhouette of a walk cycle, specifically the frame where the foot is completely flat on the ground, usually the head is at its lowest point right there. But if you take that exact drawing and just lift the whole body up higher on the paper, you basically got a run.
Why does just lifting it up on the paper make it look like a run?
Because of the vector of force. In a walk, you fall onto the straight leg, but in a run, you push off from it. You are propelling yourself upward to get that airborne moment we talked about.
So you're actively fighting gravity rather than just succumbing to it. That makes sense. Now let's talk about balance. In previous deep dives where we covered walking, we talked about how a walk is a controlled fall, but you generally keep the center of gravity pretty managed. A run seems to have completely different rules.
Completely different rules. In a walk, you generally need to keep the character balanced over their feet to make it believable. In a run, you can just throw balance out the window. The faster the figure runs, the more they must lean forward.
Like a sprinter coming out of the starting block.
Yes, exactly. Think about balancing a broom on the palm of your hand. If you want that broom to move forward really fast, you have to let it fall forward first, and then your hand has to rush to keep up with it.
Wow, that's a great analogy.
The runner doesn't have to be in balance because their momentum is carrying them. They are essentially falling face first toward the ground and just catching themselves with their feet at 4 steps a second.
I love that image. You are perpetually crashing, but your feet are just saving you at the last possible millisecond. Well, let's talk about the head for a second. Because if I am bouncing up and down, actively pushing off the ground, launching myself into the air over and over, my head must be bobbing up and down like crazy, right?
You would think so. And if you watch a novice animator's work, that is exactly what they do. They have the head bouncing a full foot in the air with every single step, but Williams corrects this immediately.
What's the really gives?
The head goes up and down, yes, but it must move much less than you think it does.
Why is that? Is it just an aesthetic choice so it looks better?
It's partly aesthetic, but it's largely biological efficiency. Imagine running down the street in real life. If your head was actually bouncing up and down 12 inches every time you took a step, your eyes wouldn't be able to focus on anything. You'd get severe motion sickness just from jogging.
Oh, that's incredibly true. Your brain kind of creates a gimbal for your eyes.
Exactly. We naturally smooth out our own trajectory. Williams gives a very specific rule of thumb here. When you raise the body for that airborne moment, let's say the body goes up a significant amount. You only raise the head about half or a third of a head height.
So the body's doing all this violent, exhausting work, pumping and pushing, but the head stays relatively level.
It smooths out the path of action. It makes the run look efficient. If the head bounces too much, the character looks like a pogo stick. It kills the forward momentum in the viewer's eye because you want the visual energy going forward, not vertical.
That is such a subtle detail. But I bet that's what separates the pros from the beginners. What about the arms? I feel like arm movement tells you absolutely everything about a character's personality when they run.
Oh, absolutely it does. The standard mechanics are just like a walk. The arms oppose the legs. Right leg forward means left arm forward. It balances the torque of the body. If you didn't do that, your torso would twist uncontrollably.
Right.
But Williams points out that once you understand that fundamental rule, you can break it to change the character entirely.
Give me an example of breaking the arm rule for character.
Well, think about a clamped run, where the arms are just pinned to the sides, the fists are clenched, and the elbows are locked tight to the ribs.
That feels really anxious.
Or repressed, or maybe they are holding something in. It makes the character look stiff and rigid. Or you can go the complete opposite way. You can have them pumping violently, making these huge sweeping arcs, which sells extreme effort or heavy athleticism.
Or what about swinging side to side? There's that classic cartoon run where the arms swing entirely across the chest.
Right, swinging side to side, crossing the center line. That actually forces the perspective. It makes the character look deeper in the spatial plane, like they are really rotating their shoulders. But here is a really counterintuitive insight from the source material. In a very fast run, too much arm movement is actually confusing.
Really? Because I would have thought flailing arms equals more chaos, which naturally equals more speed.
Up to a point, yes. But if the legs are a complete blur and the arms are also going crazy all over the place, the eye doesn't know where to look, it just becomes visual noise. So sometimes on a super fast run, reducing the arm action, keeping them tucked in and streamlined, actually makes the character look a lot faster.
It's aerodynamic.
Yeah.
Like a fighter jet versus a biplane. One has wires and propellers flailing everywhere, and the other is just a sleek dart.
Exactly. A dart is faster than a windmill. And speaking of adding vitality to a run, we have to mention the pass position again. In a walk, the pass position, which is where one leg passes the other, is usually straight up and down. It's a fairly neutral movement. But in a run, Williams says this is your main chance to add snap.
Snap. How so?
You can curve the body, you can twist the torso sideways, and then on the very next step, you reverse that curve entirely. This creates a flick effect in the animation.
Oh, I see.
It stops the run from looking like a stiff mechanical robot and makes it look like organic flesh and muscle reacting to force. It is literally the difference between a plastic toy running and a cheetah running.
Okay, so that is the standard run. The run on sixes, 4 steps a second. But we're talking about animation here. We're talking about the world of Looney Tunes and Tom and Jerry. Sometimes 4 steps a second just isn't fast enough. Sometimes you need to break the sound barrier.
This is where the engineering gets really interesting. This is section 2 of our roadmap, the need for speed. This is where animators start actively cheating physics to create sensations that reality simply cannot provide.
I love a good cheat. Let's talk about the 4-drawing formula run. Who is this specific formula for?
This is typically reserved for your short-legged figures. Think of a little cartoon dog or a really frantic small character. It's faster, it's 6 steps per second. And because it is so fast, the arms have to change completely.
How do they change?
Well, there literally isn't enough time to swing them back and forth anymore. If you tried to draw arms swinging back and forth 6 times a second, it would look like a blurry glitch on the screen. So in the 4-drawing formula, the arms often just stretch out in front, reaching for the destination.
Like they are desperately trying to grab the horizon.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the legs work under and behind the body. It's a real scrambling look. It is extremely effective for the classic chase sequence.
But wait, we can go even faster. Let's talk about the wheel, the 3-drawing run. This is one of those concepts that melted my brain a little bit when I was reading through the source.
The 3-drawing run is pure visual trickery. It's entirely based on the way our human eyes perceive spinning objects. Think about a ceiling fan, or the spokes on a fast-moving bicycle wheel. To make a wheel look like it's turning in a continuous circle, you need a minimum of 3 positions.
Now wait, why not 2? If I have a spoke at the top, like at 12 o'clock, and a spoke at the bottom at 6 o'clock, and I just switch it back and forth, isn't that movement?
It's movement, but it's ambiguous movement. If you just have a spoke at 12 o'clock and a spoke at 6 o'clock and you flip between them rapidly, your brain doesn't actually know if it went clockwise, counterclockwise, or if the line just blinked in place. It looks like it's vibrating, it flickers.
Right, it needs context. You need that 3rd position to tell the brain, oh, it went from top to right to bottom.
Exactly. The 3rd drawing gives it directionality. 1, 2, 3, top, right, bottom. So for a character like the Roadrunner or a really fast rabbit, animators will create a cycle of just 3 leg positions. It essentially turns the character's legs into a spinning wheel.
And at that speed, which is 8 steps a second, you aren't really seeing individual legs anymore. You are seeing the concept of speed.
Precisely. You are seeing a blur, but a directional blur. The crash aspect of those 3 drawings creates a continuous spinning effect. It works best on very cartoony figures, but Williams notes you can actually even do it on taller, more realistic figures if you focus entirely on broad leg action rather than detailed knees and ankles.
Okay, but we have to go faster. We have to reach the absolute limit, the fastest possible run, the 2-drawing run.
This is the danger zone, 12 steps per second. You are alternating drawings every single frame or every 2 frames.
So you just said 2 drawings look like a flicker. You just said it looks like a vibration. So how on earth does a 2-drawing run work?
This is where the absolute genius of animation directors like Tex Avery comes in. The problem, as we established, is the strobe light effect. If If you have legs wide apart in position A, like a big wide stride, and legs wide apart in position B, which is the opposite stride, it's just going to flash on screen. Your eye cannot connect the feet. It's too big of a visual gap to cross in a fraction of a second.
So what is the fix? How do they hack that?
The fix is to bunch the legs together. You keep the feet and the legs physically close to each other in both drawings.
Wait, so they aren't taking big running strides?
Not visually, no. You bunch them up. So drawing A has the legs huddled together, maybe leaning forward, all tangled up. Drawing B also has them huddled together, but maybe slightly shifted or inverted. What happens is the viewer's eye jumps the gap between the two positions because the mass of the legs is in roughly the exact same spot on the screen.
Oh, wow. So it creates a sort of ghosting effect.
Yes, it creates a scramble. It looks like the character is moving so unfathomably fast that their legs have just become this chaotic knot of motion. It's a brilliant cheat because it defies the actual logic of a stride. You literally do not see a step happen, but it perfectly captures the feeling of frantic speed.
That is so cool.
Yeah.
It is literally hacking the human brain's visual processing center to say fast.
Completely. And there's one more layer to this speed section we need to cover, the blur. Because sometimes even the cleverest drawings aren't enough. You need speed lines. You need dry brush smears where the paint literally streaks across the acetate cell.
And there was a very specific trick mentioned in the book involving dissolves, right?
The dissolve trick, yes. This is for when the two drawing animation feels a bit too harsh or jagged on the eyes. Animators would take those two drawings and film them on two-frame dissolves.
Meaning the frames physically blend into each other?
Exactly. Frame 1 slowly fades into frame 2 over 2 frames. It creates this very silky softening effect. Williams actually calls it a varnish. It smooths out the harsh edges of that 12 steps per second strobe light and makes it look like fluid, continuous motion.
It's just amazing how much technology and optical illusion goes into just making a cartoon rabbit run away from a hunter.
It is high art meeting optical science.
Okay, let's take a breath. We have been sprinting at 12 steps a second. Let's slow it down a bit and change the mood entirely. Let's talk about the skip, section 3.
The skip. It is a rhythmic dance. If a run is all about speed, a skip is entirely about attitude.
I tried to do this in my living room too, and honestly it's surprisingly hard to analyze what your feet are doing while you're doing it. What is the mathematical formula for a skip?
It is tricky to think about. The formula is step hop, step hop.
Step hop.
Right. You step on the left foot, and then you hop on that exact same left foot. Then you step on the right foot and hop on that exact same right foot. It creates a double bounce on each side of the body.
And the timing isn't even right. It's not step hop, like a metronome.
Yeah.
Because that would look really weird.
That would look incredibly robotic. No, the rhythm is uneven. We usually take about twice as long on the step as we do on the hop, so it's more like da-da, da-da.
Got a swing to it, almost like a heartbeat.
Exactly. It has a lilt, it creates buoyancy. Usually a skip is much slower than a run. A full stride might take 24 frames, which is a full second. It's leisurely.
And Williams mentioned variations here too.
Yeah.
Because not everyone skips the exact same way.
Well, think about a little girl skipping rope. She really emphasizes that double bounce. She's lifting her knees high, there's lots of upward energy. But then contrast that with a heavyweight prize fighter skipping rope in the gym.
Oh, right. They barely leave the ground.
Exactly. It's hyper efficient, tight, barely lifting off the floor. Same exact mechanic. It's still step hop, double bounce. But it creates a totally different feeling. And then there's the subtle skip walk. This is one of my absolute favorites. It is basically a walk that has a triple bounce hidden inside it to make the character look jaunty.
A triple bounce.
Yeah. It's really hard to spot unless you freeze frame the film, but the character is actually bobbing 3 times per stride instead of the usual 1 or 2. It gives them this incredible upbeat energy without looking like they are literally skipping down the street like a toddler.
I feel like that is the secret to those classic Disney characters that just seem so remarkably full of life. It's hidden bounces.
It very often is. It's hidden energy built into the cycle.
All right, so we've got the theory down. Now I want to move to section 4, the case study. The old lady. Williams devotes a huge chunk of this chapter to a very specific sequence involving an old woman character. And we have to talk about her design because she's quite distinctive.
She is a masterpiece of character design. Williams calls her a walking anatomy lesson, but she's so much more than just an exercise. She is built on what he calls the standard 40s Hollywood pear shape.
The parakeet.
Yes, heavy at the bottom, much narrower at the top. But the real key to her is the textures. She has soft bits and hard bits. Her knees and her elbows are hard, bony points, but she has these ancient breasts, his words, not mine, and a really floppy ponytail.
And those soft bits are really important for the animation, right? It's not just to be funny or grotesque.
It's crucial for the mechanics. They provide the follow-through and the drag. When she stops moving, the ponytail keeps going forward. When she bounces, the ancient breasts flap. It adds secondary action that makes her feel heavy, physical, and real. If she were just a solid, rigid block of a drawing, she wouldn't feel alive at all.
So walk us through her sequence, because it's a roadmap of absolutely everything we discussed so far.
So she starts with a run, but it's not just any standard run. She is running like an ex-athlete.
I love that description.
It's perfect. Her arms are pumping like a boxer, very contained and tight to her chest. She looks fiercely determined. She doesn't look frail in the slightest. She looks like she's in training.
And then what happens?
Then she transitions. She starts taking bigger and bigger steps. And as she does, her body goes up and down more dramatically. The energy is clearly building. She's preparing for something big.
The jump.
The jump. She leaps into the air. And this is where the stylistic flair comes in. In midair, she adopts this old-fashioned 1930s midair pose. The legs are split out. It's maybe a little bit theatrical.
Randy.
She lands and compresses. She squashes down heavily to absorb the shock of the impact. You really feel the weight of her age in that landing. But she doesn't stop. This is the brilliance of this specific sequence. She transitions out of that incredibly heavy landing directly into a girlish skip.
So she goes from this intense athlete run into a big jump and lands into a girlish skip.
Exactly. The mechanical pattern completely shifts. She runs in, hops on the left, lands on the left, hops on the right. And the brilliant observation here is that she flows smoothly between three completely distinct mechanical systems: the run, the jump, and the skip, without ever breaking her character.
It's a narrative, really.
Yeah.
The run is determination. The jump is the massive effort. And the skip is the joyful success of landing it.
Precisely. It shows that these formulas aren't just separate, isolated files in a computer somewhere. They are fluid states of motion that directly reflect the character's internal emotional state.
Let's focus on that jump for a minute. That brings us to section 5. Jumping seems like it should be the simplest thing in the world. You go up and you come down. But Williams breaks it down into very specific, rigid phases.
It is simple in concept, but highly complex in execution. You have 4 main phases. First, and this is completely non-negotiable, is anticipation. The squash. You absolutely cannot jump without going down first. You have to store the potential energy in the legs. That's just the law of physics. Then you have the push-off, stretch phase. The legs extend fully to propel the mass of the body upward. Then, the air. The body follows a clear path of action through space, usually an arc.
Finally.
The landing and recovery, where the feet hit the ground and you squash down again to handle the returning weight.
There's a great maxim here from the golden age of animation that Williams quotes regarding the jump. It's about the lean.
Yes. The rule is, when you think you've gone far enough, go twice as far.
Twice as far. That sounds extreme. That sounds like you would literally break the character's spine.
It is meant to combat stiffness. Beginners tend to be very timid. They lean the character forward just a little bit for the jump. But when you project that on screen, it looks totally stiff. It looks like they are holding back. The logic behind the maxim is you can always pull the drawing back later if it's too much. But animators almost rarely do.
Because the extreme exaggeration actually sells the physics to our eyes.
Exactly. You need lots of lean in the body to properly show the massive force of a jump. If a character jumps forward but their torso is straight up and down vertically, they look like they're being lifted by invisible wires. But if they lean way, way forward, almost parallel to the ground, you inherently believe they are pushing themselves with their own muscles.
Speaking of invisible wires, let's talk about weight and float. Because there is nothing worse than watching an animated character who jumps and just looks like a paper cutout sliding across a painted background.
Oh, that is the classic float problem. The issue is, if a character holds a static, frozen pose while they are in the air moving across the screen, our brain immediately rejects it. We look at it and say, that object is weightless.
So what do? How do you mathematically prove that gravity exists while they're literally flying?
You need internal action during the jump. Even while they're flying smoothly through the air on that arc, you have to get the arms moving, get the feet trailing behind, or have them slowly tucking inward.
So the overall trajectory is smooth, but the individual body parts are still alive and reacting.
Yes. It gives the profound illusion of weight. If the arms are flailing even slightly or the legs are adjusting their balance, our brain says that is a heavy physical object struggling against the pull of gravity. But if they are frozen solid, our brain just says that is a flat drawing sliding on a piece of clear cell.
That distinction is just everything. Now, before we wrap up the technical side of this deep dive, we have to pay some respect to the history. Williams heavily mentions Edward Muybridge.
You absolutely cannot talk about the mechanics of locomotion without bringing up Muybridge. 1887, his work, Human and Animal Locomotion.
He's the guy with the grid photos, right? I've seen these. It's usually a naked guy running against a stark black grid with white lines.
Or a horse, or a bison. He set up dozens of cameras in a row and took incredibly fast sequential photos. Those photos are still, to this exact day, the absolute treasure trove for animators.
But why? We have high-speed video now. We have iPhones in our pockets that can shoot 240 frames a second. Why are animators still looking at grainy black and white photos from 1887?
Because Muybridge's grids allow you to see exactly where the ups and downs occur in spatial reality without the distracting blur of continuous video. It breaks reality down into perfectly readable, isolated frames. Williams points out that animators use Muybridge to learn the absolute truth. You have to deeply know the reality, the Muybridge reality, before you can successfully do the cheat, which is the Tex Avery reality.
It's that old art school cliche. Learning the rules perfectly so you know exactly how to break them.
Precisely. You cannot make a believable two-drawing scramble run if you don't intimately understand what a real run looks like first.
So, just to recap our roadmap, we have looked at the math of the run, the standard 4 steps a second. We've looked at the intense visual trickery of the two-drawing blur where you bunch the legs together to stop the flickering. We've talked about the uneven step hop rhythm of the skip and the heavy mechanics of the jump.
We have covered a tremendous amount of ground today.
But the so what here feels so much bigger than just learning how to draw a cycle.
It really is. The big takeaway for me, looking at Chapter 9, is that animation is not just about moving a drawing from point A to point B. It is entirely about timing and attitude. A run isn't just fast movement. It's a character being literally fat, like our man with the kite. Or it's them being incredibly angry or panic-stricken because they're late.
The mechanics, the extreme lean, the violent arm swing, the subtle head bob, those are just the tools used to express the actual emotion.
Exactly. The two-drawing run isn't just a clever technical trick to save time. It is the visual feeling of panic. The skip isn't just a step hop formula. It is the physical manifestation of joy. You are engineering emotion through biomechanics.
That is a really beautiful way to put it. Engineering emotion. Well, I have a final provocative thought for our listeners to take away today as we wrap up.
Let's hear it.
Next time you sit down and watch a chase scene in an old cartoon, Tom and Jerry, a Roadrunner, Bugs Bunny, don't look at their faces. Force yourself to look at the feet. Ask yourself, are they actually moving? Or did the animator just trick your brain into filling in the gaps of the two-drawing cycle?
That's great. And I will add one to that as well. In real life, when you run, if you run, try to notice that split second where you are technically flying. Focus on that tiny moment where both of your feet are completely off the ground, because that is the moment where you are briefly a cartoon.
I love that. I'm definitely going to go try a subtle skip walk to the kitchen right now.
Just don't trip over your own momentum.
I'll do my best. Take a leap, everyone. We will see you in the next deep dive.